Today we're looking at Robert Oster's Blue Sea. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Robert Oster's Blue Sea is a blue ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then ink it up into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Pier Cardin President with a medium nib to take my notes for this video. But before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is a chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down, give it 10 to 15 seconds in the water, and watch what happens. And this ink runs up the page. It leaves a light gray behind while it's moving up, and it becomes a turquoise to a blue to a very dark blue line at the top. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into the water. Now we see a darker gray line at the bottom. We see that the color that runs up is a darker gray. We don't see as much of the turquoise, much more of the blue, and a thicker dark blue line at the top. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to hold up on the paper, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean out of your pen. I let the resistance test dry for 3 days before I test it. The highlighter feathers. So automatically I know I don't want to use this in a note-taking situation. I also expected it to then reactivate quite a bit, which it did when we look at water. A drop of water almost completely removes it from the page. I can see the dots from the Rhodia paper through the light blue. Pen Flush did a bit more than water, but basically the same thing. Removes it. I can see the dots from the Rhodia paper through what's left. You should only need water to get this off the paper, or to get this out of your pen. Bleach obliterates it. It's gone, as expected. Don't use bleach to get this out of a pen. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Robert Oster's Blue Sea has a viscosity of 2.27, which makes it a very normal flowing ink. To get my average dry time, I use my writing samples of the extra fine and medium nib done on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Robert Oster's Blue Sea has an average dry time of 16 seconds, which makes it a very average dry time. Now let's look at the writing sample. So I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's look at Clairefontaine. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. This spot is user error. It's a transfer from underneath. Looking at the 1.1, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, but we do have color variation. It does give a nice color variation where, especially when you look at the beginning of Robert, it's nice and dark. We get a little bit lighter, but it shows on the Oster. The O is nice and light, and then it gets darker. We look at C, the left side of the S is definitely lighter than the right side of the S. So we are getting some decent color variation here. Moving on to the extra fine, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade. We lose the shade with the extra fine, something a lot of extra fines do. 11 seconds to dry. Now we move on to the medium. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. We do get some shade. We get some lighter and some darker. Ignoring the spot that I normally place my thumb. Over has nice shading. Brown has nice shading. Fox has great shading. Lazy gets it nice and dark on the L. Really dark on the A. Gets lighter on the Z and the Y. So very nice. 15 seconds to dry. Now when I'm looking at the scrubby, the extra fine shows me no color variation whatsoever, where the medium does show me the color variation, and that's exactly what we got in the writing samples. The smear test lets me know exactly if I could recover this if I did smear it. Looking at Tomoe River, we have no bleeding. We do have ghosting. With the 1.1, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade. None. On the
Extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. 18 seconds to dry. This is a very straightforward blue here. The medium gives me no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. In that whole of the medium, 25 seconds to dry. Looking at the scrubby, we expect no color variation whatsoever here. And the smear, we're not going to recover it. Normal play for Tomoe River. Rhodia paper. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. On the 1.1, we have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. None. It's, you know, so many blues, so many blue inks. Blues are people's favorites because you do tend to get a lot of shading, and I don't know where it is here. The extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, 12 seconds to dry. On the medium, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, 17 seconds to dry. And looking at the scrubby, I am not expecting to be able to get color variation out of this ink because I don't get it in these areas where I start out nice and light and I get thicker and thicker and thicker, and it just levels out and becomes nothing. But the good news is, if I smeared it, I could definitely recover this. Looking at TWSBI paper, TWSBI paper gives us no gives us no bleed, gives us no ghosting. Again, much heavier on camera than it is actually in person. The 1.1 gives us no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, and 10 seconds. Now the medium is definitely a darker tone than the extra fine. Definitely a darker tone. Ignore the spot where I place my thumb. We have no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade. Where I put my thumb, where those oils sit, because I'm holding that paper down, and because I'm pressing it, that's where I'm seeing it. That's why that happens so frequently. 14 seconds to dry. Looking at the scrubby, we see no color variation really. Where it looks really light on camera, at a distance, up close, if we focus. Or not. Is the camera winning today? Here we go. You see that what looked like it was lighter was white, where I hadn't completely filled in on the scrubby. So it's not that it's actually lighter on the left side, it's that I didn't completely fill in the scrubby, and the medium only has that one spot where it's looking a little lighter, so I can't tell if that's actually shading or maybe that's where a finger was holding the paper, moving it around, just like with the J. The smear test, I would not be able to recover that, so I looked at moleskin paper. Moleskin paper, of course, bled all over the place. Ghosting almost is not an issue because of how much it bleeds. Looking at the medium, where I wrote at the top, we have definite spread, definite feather, all over. I'm not going to do this every time I look at Rhodia paper. Definite feather all over the place. It's woolly. No halo, no sheen, no shade. The extra fine goes down more like a medium. Definitely feathering. Definitely have no halo. Definitely have no sheen, no shade. 4 seconds to dry. Nothing in the scrubby. But the smear, you could recover this. So this all comes down to if this is getting your page underneath. I think if I was using this in a much drier pen as my walk around, this wouldn't be horrible. It's still going to bleed through, but it's not going to touch the page underneath. I just don't know why do the fight just let that fight go and stop using moleskin. But it'll show up from time to time in these tests. That's all I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Robert Oster Blue Sea, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. And I've chosen Diamine Monaco Red because it is a red-brown ink that truly offsets this blue. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Robert Oster Blue Sea? This is a tough decision to come to on this ink. It is a very nice ink, but the problem is there's so many blues. With so many blues to choose from, if this is the blue that speaks to you and says, I love it, get it. This does not speak to me in that way. It doesn't make me say, I want it. I have a blue ink that I use a great deal of, but this hasn't been it. And not because I got it in a sample. I didn't seek it out in any additional form. Not for any negative reason. It just doesn't speak to me. But it is a good ink. Thanks for watching.